Your system was attacked last night. The hacker is gone. Only one thing remains: the log file. If an attack isn't logged, it didn't happen. Every firewall server and IDS writes to files. Today we will learn how Python reads and writes them. Logs are the memory of a system. So, what is a file? A file is where data survives after your program ends. Example: login logs, access logs, and error logs. So now let's write our writing security logs, a program which writes security logs. And what log it will write? It will write failed login logs. So for that, we will first take a variable and say open security.log and a. We will use a to let the program know that we are trying to append the data. And then we'll use log underscore file dot write and failed login from IP, and let's say this IP and slash n. So we write like the next line into the new line and log underscore file dot close. So what we did here is called file handling in Python. Okay, and never overwrite logs, append them, because if you overwrite them, that will be pointless because you will only have this log. You won't have the unlike the older ones. So if I run this program, it won't give me any output. But if I go into the folder, you will see a file here saying security.log. And you might think that why it is getting written in the Python folder, because currently I am in the desktop Python folder. So currently I am here. So let's just delete for a second here and let's say ls and then go in file handling. Okay. Now let's write it again, run it again, and now it will be written in this folder only. Okay. So as you can see, it will write like this. And now if I say the content of the file is new, I don't want to save it. Okay. So now if you save it, sorry. So now we ran it the second time, and now if you try to read the file, you will get a new log. Okay, so now let's talk about a common mistake people make. People use W instead of A. So what will happen if you use W instead of A? Watch this. All your old logs is gone. This wipes the entire log file, which is pointless if you are like writing logs, because only one log won't be helpful in any case. So now let's talk about how to read files. Writing log files. Now we will see how we can read these logs files. First, let's clear terminal and reading log files. I'm just gonna close this window. Okay, so read the log file. We'll use log underscore file again. Open. We will first open the file using the open method, or sorry, open function, and then we will use R. R is used for reading, for line in log underscore file. So we are using for loop here because our log file will have multiple lines. So that's why we are using it here. And line dot strip and then log underscore file dot close. You guessed it right. Okay, so now if you write it, it will give you the log. So let's write it multiple times and save it now. Then now let's try to run it again, and you will see it printed all of them. So what line.strip does is it will, okay, so it will, okay, so what line.strip is doing here is it will remove any prepending space. For example, if this, I'll actually just show you the implementation of this. Let's say I added so many spaces here and so many spaces here. So now if we run it again, it will remove all the spaces. See, you want tell, like you can tell now where I have added spaces. And if you want to check, it's still here. So strip is removing any extra spaces our log file is having. So it is more readable, because if an IP comes like here like this, so let's say I just made it print line, you can see how it is like printing, which is not very good for the analyst. And this is how analysts review attacks. Okay, so now in this case, what people do is sometimes they use the wrong file name. For example, I missed a alphabet and I try to run it. The Python will say no such file or directory. Security, it's not even security, security y.log. So it's simply saying that there's no such file or directory named this one. So what I am supposed to do is ls and then just fix my file name and then save the program and then run it again to make it work. Why does it happen? Because Python doesn't guess. Files must exist. Okay, so now let's talk about with statement. What with statement does is, first let's write the program about it. Security.log and then a comma a for appending as log.write suspicious activity detected. And the next line, let's just remove it, the space from here. And now if you run it and we will open it again, so it just printed the suspicious activity detected. So with open is opening this file as a variable named log. So you can operate this security.log using the log variable, or you can, like, it will be a file named log here and you can perform actions here. So for example, if I wanna like read it, log dot what we used, okay, log dot, let's say open, and I'll just say r here, and then for, actually not for, actually just leave it. So what this with open does is it will open this file as a variable named log. Why use it? Because it's cleaner, safer and professional, and real code cleans up after itself. Okay, so now let's write a program for simple log analysis. So first let's take a variable with integer of 0 and with open security.log comma and r here as log. Then for line in log if failed login in line count plus equals to 1, then simply print total failed attempts and the count. You can use f strings here too. This is intrusion detection logic. So let's try running it now. Okay, so it's saying our total failed attempts is 8. So if we wanna like check it, okay, so what it's doing is, first of all, let's talk about it. So we've here opened the file in read mode, then we ran the for loop in the file, and we are checking if like the file has failed login, and if it does exist, we will increase the count variable numbers, and when it will be completed, it will just print the count, and you can see that we do have 8 failed logins here. Okay, so now let's write a program for stock detection. We'll call it mini stock detection script. So let's first take a variable. I'm taking list here. Okay, so let's first take a variable with empty list, and now we'll open it with open and security.log again, comma r. Okay, yeah, now it's okay as log. Then for line in log ip equals to line dot strip dot split and -1. If you guys have no idea that what is this -1, it will reverse the list and alerts dot get ip comma 0, then +1, and the other loop for ip in alerts if alerts ip, and we'll print here alert ip attempted. Okay, so now let's talk about what this program is doing. First, we created an empty dictionary called alerts. This is where we will store the IP address and how many times they have shown up in the log. Think of it like a scoreboard that tracks how often each player, it means IP, scores. Next, we open up our security.log file. The R means we are opening it in read-only mode, so we can read through the logs. And then for line in log. Now we loop through each line in the log file. And then comes this line. Here's the magic. We are stripping out any extra white space from the line, then splitting it into individual word based on spaces. And we are grabbing the last word in that list because guess what? That last word is usually the IP address. So we are basically pulling out the suspect in every line. And then comes this line. And then comes this line. Now we update our dictionary alerts. The .get IP, 0 checks if the IP already exists in the dictionary. If it does, it gives us the count. Otherwise, it starts with 0. Then we add 1 to the count. So every time an IP shows up in the log, we increase the count by 1. Then comes this line. Now we are switching gears. We are going to look through all the IPs we have been tracking in the dictionary. It's like scanning through our list of suspects to see who's been the most active. Then this, if an IP shows up 3 or more times, we have an alert. So we are looking for the IPs that are really making waves. Maybe they are trying to brute force their way in or just being super suspicious. And this line, finally we print out the alert If we found an IP with 3 or more attempts, we are showing the world who the troublemaker is with an alert and how many times they have tried, so something like this pops up. Okay, so now let's talk about some common beginner mistake. First one is forgetting to close the file, like forgetting this line here. So if you run it like this, you might think that there's no problem, but there will be in future cases. So we do close our file because it's better practice. Overwriting logs is second. Some people use W instead of A and it will just swipe your all logs. And then having logs is pointless. And not handling missing files is the last one. Now you can store and analyze attacks. Next, we log down unchangeable security data using tuples. And after tuples, we will be learning about dictionary. Like, subscribe, and comment down. SOC ready because we are building real cybersecurity skills. Thank you guys for watching. So see you guys in the next video.